Rebel Force Radio presents
Experimental Unit Clone Force 99. The defective clones with desirable mutations. They call themselves the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
This is the Bad Batch After Show.
All right, we're playing a little catch-up this week on the Bad Batch After Show here at Rebel Force Radio. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We've got 2 episodes that we'll be looking at, and it's actually, I think that, sometimes fate just plays into your hands, and I think that it's actually a good thing that we have both Pabu and Tipping Point to talk about this week, because I feel as though if we just were looking at Pabu, I would be on here saying, it's filler. It doesn't really move the plot along. I don't see them staying there. But now that we're into a second episode and they're still dealing with some of these temptations to try and collect what they have as a family to lead some semblance of a normal life, it just adds to it. So I think that it's a great little double feature. It kind of felt like one episode to me because I actually watched them back to back. I didn't watch it last week. So today was a very Bad Batchy day for me. Hope it's a Bad Batchy day for you all as we break down both of these episodes. And by we, I mean, of course, myself. My name's Jason, if you're new to the show, and my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Back again for Bad Batch Double Blast. Wowie, wow. You're right, Jason. If we did the show last week, you would have opened up talking about how much filler it is, and then you would have opened yourself up to conversation and analysis, and probably would have walked away from that conversation feeling pretty good about that episode. But I can tell you right now, I don't think I'd be one to offer much analysis or anything about Pabu. I thought it was filler as well. However, I understand the nature of this show and the way things go, that, we're dealing with our protagonists. They've been on the run since episode 1. And here we are winding down season 2. So when the Bad Batch finally do find a place to settle down in, we have to spend a little time with them settling down. And that's what Pabu is all about. I think I think we're actually seeing the eventual permanent home for the Bad Batch. I think that's where they'll go to live out the rest of their lives and raise Omega and everything else and just be normal people. I think that's where the show is heading. I don't think there's any grand future for Omega or anything like that. I think at the end of the day, she's just going to be a normal kid wanting to live a normal kid life. And that's what the Bad Batch is going to give them. That's what Pabu is going to give them. People are saying Omega is going to grow up to be the armorer. People are saying Pabu is a code name for Scarif. And it doesn't all have to tie in like that. I think at the end of the day, the Bad Batch might be a story about just, humans trying to find a place where they can be comfortable and settle down and raise a kid. And that's what this is. I think that's what Pabu is establishing for us.
So are you saying that not every character in the Star Wars universe has a destiny?
Right.
About going and saving the galaxy at some point? I think that would, some might say, well, that sounds rather mundane. But I actually think in the context of the galaxy far, far away, that sounds pretty interesting. What if you just want to be a normal Joe or a normal Jane in the Star Wars universe? You're not interested. And this is brought up between Echo and Hunter. And we'll talk about that, but I love that scene that they have together when he goes, haven't we done enough? When is enough enough? We're never going to beat him. We're never going to beat him. Yes.
The fatigue on these characters is palpable and has been for a while. So the Bad Batch helped Fee acquire and deliver an artifact to a museum on the remote planet of Pabu. Remote. That's the word I was struggling to say. BB blows off Sid. She's been losing money and opportunity. And so I'm happy to see that, Yeah. Let's move away from Sid. But there's going to be repercussions. She's losing money. So what's she going to do? Is she going to
Yes.
send bounty hunters out after the Bad Batch? Is she, how's she going to try to hunt them down? Or is she going to inform the Empire like most of us have been predicting?
Well,
she
I
would
have
do?
a note written down here. Is Sid bluffing? Because that's one of the things I want to talk about. Because what really is, what is in it for Sid? Does she really want to bring down the heat of the Empire on her and her operation? Sure, she might make the phone call and say, hey, I know where these guys are. But that's going to bring the attention right there. You see it happen on other planets like Tatooine, and everyone else becomes collateral damage. So she's got to think long and hard about that.
Well, the Empire may make Sid an offer she can't refuse as well. And then she can retire and go to Pabu.
Well,
That'd be ironic.
that's an interesting idea. I don't know that they play that fairly. That's what they're offering Crosshair right now. They're offering him that offer that he can't refuse, but he seems to be refusing it. And I think he's doing it because he knows he's a dead man either way. That's my theory. But hey, let's get into the tail of the tape. We got 2 episodes to talk about. We're talking about Bad Batch, of course, season 2, episode 13, Pabu, directed by Stuart Lee and written by Amanda Rose Munoz. And that original air date is March 15th, 2023. Minus end credits, you're looking at about 24 minutes and 50 seconds. And the second episode 14 of season 2, Tipping Point, directed by Sal Ruiz and written by Jennifer Corbett and Matt Miknovitz. Of course, great score by Kevin Kiner. And this clocked in at 25 minutes and 40 seconds minus the end credits. And those 2 episodes originally aired on Disney Plus on March 15th and March 22nd, respectively. So that's that. So let's talk about this question about when have you done enough? When is enough enough? And it seems to me that for Hunter, the lure of what Pabu offers them, and it is kind of funny because he looks off and he doesn't just see Omega having the time of her life. He sees Wrecker having the time of his life too. He's like a big
he's
kid.
the other
running
kid,
around.
right?
He is the other kid.
They got
But
to take care
Echo,
of the kids.
it seems like this episode where Hunter wants to wind down, Echo is just getting started. He seems more energized, like we're on the cusp of finding out this plot, this clone conspiracy. We got to keep going. But do you think I'm reading it right, Jim, that I say that Hunter is pretty much had it, I think, by this point?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just being on the run with the kid. The only reason they were doing all those jobs for Sid is because she offered them some level of protection, a place to stay, and a way to make money.
Right.
But I mean, how much money is enough? Haven't they made enough money by now? And so I think, I think their wallets are full. I think Hunter, they're dealing with so much. I mean, not even just like the physical extreme of being fugitives like they are and always on the run, but it's also the whole mind. That's not the word I want to use. It's the whole idea that they've lost, everything. They've lost their army. They've lost their position in life. And they know they're not alone. They see other clones going through all this too. So what can they go back to anyway? I mean, what is there to go back to? They're natural warriors, of course. But I think sooner or later, they're just going to, like I said, how many times have I said this season? Hunter has been showing signs that he's just totally exhausted, exhausted.
Yeah.
Wrecker, he's full of energy. He's like a kid, right? He'll just do whatever they tell him to. But Echo, he was a reg. So naturally he feels more compassion for all the other clone troopers that he's seeing taken prisoner. They refer to the clone troopers as prisoners. The Empire does.
Hey, speaking of that, when you talk about Echo and the different perception he has of his brothers, he talks about that in the episode with Hunter. We're fighting for our brothers. And I was flashing back to season 1 before all hell broke loose for the Bad Batch. And what did you see? You saw them eating alone, right?
Right.
Nobody was really inviting them over to the table. So they were outcasts. Yeah. So it makes sense to me that they wouldn't have the same, I don't want to say loyalty, but they wouldn't have the same relationship with the brothers. They've been outsiders forever. Echo's part of this tribe.
Yes. Yeah, the Brotherhood means something different to the Bad Batch than it does to a regular clone trooper. The Bad Batch, that's a brotherhood within a brotherhood.
Yeah.
And very specific, and they support each other clearly. We saw in Camino, they were all roommates. They had a big old suite that they pretty much trashed with all of their electronics and blasters and, Hunter or Wrecker punching a wall, what have you. But I
also got the sense that they kind of also did what they wanted to do, right? Like they were, I think the higher ups were kind of hands off with them. They were special ops. I don't think they had to fall in the same time as the rest of the troops. I think they kind of did their own thing. And that might have caused a little bit of, could be some resentment, maybe some standoffishness with the other ones. I just feel that they didn't have the real trooper CT or not CT, yeah, CT. TK experience.
Very true. Very true. So they can't relate.
Yeah.
They can't relate. They don't feel the same things Echo feels, or Rex for that matter. They don't, but they do know, these guys are clone troopers and stuff. And so they respect what they're doing. And for Echo, it's not about any sort of moral issues or any sort of hang up with the government. His problem is specifically the way the clone troopers are being treated, thus making the Empire a natural enemy. But it's not because of the Empire being who they are and the way that they're aggressively oppressing the universe, fueled by the Sith. That's not what the problem is here for the clone troopers in Echo. The problem is that they're treating the brothers like crap.
Yeah,
so you can't.
They're rounding them up. I mean, they're literally rounding them up. They've got this guy, Dr. Hemlock, which we're getting to know him. Isn't he a peach? Getting to know him.
I love the way Jimmy Simpson, I believe that's the name of the actor, the way he voices Hemlock. There's just something so great about this vocal performance. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I know it when I hear it.
What's the name of the robot or the computer in 2010? Hello, Dave.
Hal.
He sort of has that sort of delivery.
Nothing
really ruffles his feathers.
Hal Hemlock. His first name's Royce. Royce
Hemlock. But he's really the Joseph Mengele, wouldn't you say, of the Empire. We don't know exactly what he's doing, but he seems to be almost on the other side of the Rampart, the Rampart Tarkin, I guess you might call it, debate about what to do with the clones. So, Rampart wanted to get rid of the clones altogether, do all conscripted troops, just dump them. Whereas Hemlock seems to be, I think we get almost like we can recycle these guys. Is that the idea, that we can reprogram them, retune them, get under the hood and scramble the eggs a little bit and see if we can squeeze a little bit more juice out of them? That's kind of what I'm thinking his take. We don't really know ultimately what his plot is, but he definitely doesn't seem to be on the same page that Rampart was, who just wanted to dump the clones. This guy's like, send them to me in my lab and I'll do something.
Okay. Well, what do we know about Hemlock? I mean, he runs this advanced science division for the Empire. It's a secret operation. And so that gives us one clue. And he is experimenting on clones. That gives us another clue.
Right.
This could be part of that whole keep Palpatine alive forever initiative.
Okay.
And obviously the Kaminoans took certain secrets about cloning to their death. But here we have the Bad Batch and other clone troopers out there. These are great to, pick them apart, dissect them, figure out all the ins and outs of cloning, and then how to advance them and make them super warriors or capable containers for evil Sith spirits, what have you. But Hemlock, he was kicked out of the Republic. He was in the, he's a member of the Republic during the Clone War. He was part of the Republic Science Corps, and they kicked him out because unauthorized experiments.
Imagine.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's something very unethical about this guy to his core. It doesn't matter who the government is. He's all about the science. And so he convinces Tarkin. Oh, by the way, Stephen Stanton back as Tarkin. I mean,
That was great.
Wow. I mean, so great to see Stephen back trilling his R's like a rock
Oh, I counted
star.
them. I counted them. Steven's always such a great sport when we have him on the show. We razz him about the trilling of the R's. And I like to think he might have been thinking of his friends at RFR when he was doing this bit. But yeah, it was great. It was
He
great.
was only in one scene, but man, it was routing rogue ranks. I mean, it was just like, whoa. Trill City, man.
Oh, yeah.
Trill City. But so Hemlock proposes this idea. Hey, you know what? Instead of just disposing of these prisoners, who knows where that transport was headed to, right? But
Right. We don't know.
at the beginning,
Right.
and we've heard are there's clone troopers who are questioning, they disappear.
Yes.
But what's happening to them? They're getting killed, right? That's what you'd have to believe. And so to Hemlock, they're just throwing away golden opportunity to research clones, research clone troopers in Order 99 or whatever their group is called. And what is their group called? Why am I spacing on that? It's
Wait, Clone Force 99?
Clone Force 99, not
Yeah,
Order
okay,
99.
yeah. Order. Well, they've got
there's
they've got
orders, there's
Project
clone
88,
forces, there's
Project 88, Order 66, and Clone Force 99. It's just too much.
Plan 88.
Plan
The
88.
Seeker.
Is that what it was?
The
Plan,
Seeker.
not Project?
Yeah, Plan.
All right. Scratch that off.
Plan, the
Plan.
Seeker. I think so. I mean, I'm just taking notes like you. Maybe I got that wrong. But that means the Bad Batch is being targeted. The Seeker.
Yes.
So, but Hemlock, yeah, he's really interesting, and we're going to learn more in this two-parter coming up next week about what he really wants to do with these clone troopers, because apparently there's some sort of Imperial summit that's going down, and Tarkin wants Hemlock to present his pitch.
Yeah, he's doing a
wants,
panel. It's
he's doing
Empire Celebration 6, and he's doing a panel on cloning. Can you imagine if they did that for a theme of a Star Wars celebration where they did the whole thing in universe? None of it was like outside looking in. Everything was in universe. You'd have a panel about, Palpatine getting up there doing the opening ceremonies. And then there'd be a panel about how to keep your Sith essence trapped inside of a cloned body, that kind of stuff. I'd love that. It'd be like that hotel, that Disney hotel where it's all in universe, the one that's half empty all the time. They can't get people to
the
fill it.
Galactic Star Cruiser Summit.
Yeah.
But so I believe we'll be seeing Hemlock present his plans for the clone troopers at this summit. And I think it'll be next week. I mean, they wouldn't tease something like that and end the season without it happening. And Hemlock, I really like this guy for some reason.
Well, he's interesting, that's for sure. He's far more
he's
interesting than Rampart ever was.
Rampart never really had much going on.
Not at all.
No, he didn't. But I mean, it's just the difference between an Imperial officer and a scientist,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a doctor, Dr. Rampart.
Maybe they could bring back Dr. Vindy, maybe for some of these clone experiments. Can you imagine?
Come on, Swike, I got a cold.
I know. I shouldn't bring
Yeah. You son of
well, let's talk about Crosshair and this face turn, to use a wrestling terminology here. The face turn of Crosshair and his refusal to play ball with the good doctor there. What is it? Is he protecting Omega? Is he just trying to basically give the ultimate middle finger to the Empire? So what is his motivation in warning the Bad Batch and in refusing to give up any information about them. Because if you take what they're saying, what they're offering to him at face value, this is a way for him to win his freedom. This is a way for him to ride off into the sunset, wipe the slate clean, as they say, and no strings attached. Just tell us how to find these people, because he wants, the doctor wants Omega so that he can use it as leverage over Nala Se, so she can spill the beans on her cloning science, knowledge, what have you. But I'm really vexed about Crosshair.
That's right.
What's his motivation?
I keep forgetting they've never really applied any value to Omega and acquiring Omega. They just want to use her to coerce Nala Se.
Right.
That's the only value Omega has.
Right.
But I think there might be something else there that they're overlooking. And maybe in these last 2 episodes of the season, we'll see the Empire discover it. What Omega's true value is, what makes her special. Maybe they'll experience it the same time Omega experiences it. But we don't know. I mean, we still don't know. Omega is largely a mystery. She is a clone, and for her to be so vastly different from the other clones, she had to have been created for a specific purpose, for a specific reason. Like Boba Fett, unaltered clone. Why? Well, that's what Jango Fett wanted. Did Jango Fett also want a daughter? And then maybe Jango wanted a daughter, and he died on Geonosis, and Boba split. He never returned to Kamino. So they're like, oh, well, he's dead, but we got this test tube here. I mean, what are we going to do with it?
Right. Yeah.
And so thus Omega was
There were no
born.
instructions
I think
left
that's
on the label of the test tube. You know, if I die, do that.
Boba's the alpha. Boba's the alpha. Omega is the last.
Right.
So, thus she would have been created well after Boba.
Yes. Yeah.
But would they have known of her, or maybe they just left her behind?
By the way, I've given up on trying to determine age and clones and all of that and unaltered clones, but to me, I firmly believe if you've got 2 unaltered clones, and at the time of the Bad Batch, Boba Fett would be a teenager, right?
Yes.
And Omega is 12, a few years younger. So
11, 10, 11.
She was hatched a few years before or after Boba Fett. That's my guess. But probably still during Jango's lifetime, I would suspect. I personally don't feel that Jango would have any knowledge of Omega, any interest. Oh, he would certainly have interest. I think he would want to know if they created another unaltered clone with his DNA. That would probably be of interest to him. But I don't think it was done at his request. I don't think that he will figure into the Omega question really at all.
I was just throwing it out there.
I think it's fair. But as far as Crosshair, we had some people in the chat, Jim, saying, well, he's a predator. It's just about survival. I think if it was about survival, he would take the deal.
Right. I mean,
unless he really believes that he's a dead man.
Isn't his survival the top priority?
If
he did have a value to the Empire, if they were going to experiment on him and try to advance their own cloning technologies, Crosshair would probably demand his freedom, right? I mean, he would take that away from the Empire. That would be more valuable, like his life and the ability for the Empire to learn from him would be more valuable than protecting the Bad Batch and Omega. But obviously, there's a bond that runs deeper with Crosshair and the guys. Not the kid so much. Even Hemlock says, why do you even care? We know you don't care about the kid. What? He doesn't provide an answer, but I think it's all about the brothers.
Neil on the chat does bring up a valid point here. He says Omega isn't unaltered. They obviously changed a few things to make Omega. Oh, I think that's fair. She's not unaltered, which could mean that Nala Se knows how to do the strand casting that we're hearing about in Mandalorian?
A combination of two different DNA.
Right. So maybe that's part of this.
Hey, there you go. That's a good one. Okay. I like that one. I like it.
So it very well could be that she could be the sort of the prototype for being able to combine strands of DNA to create sort of Pershing articulated it great on that last episode 2 weeks ago about it, coming together to form a replica. He called it a replica when you combine two strands of DNA, or he was talking about multiple strands into a replica. This paradise that they end up on, Puba. I remember at a job I had once, I talked to a guy that lived on one of the Hawaiian islands. And, being a landlocked Midwest guy, I couldn't fathom. I've never been to Hawaii. Jim, I know you've been to Hawaii a couple of times, I think. I just can't fathom it. And I remember asking him one time, I said, hey, does it ever bother you that a tsunami could come up or a volcano could erupt and it just wipe you off? And he goes, yeah, you don't really think about it day to day. And if you do, you just go, in the meantime, I'll take paradise. Mm-hmm. I thought, wow, man. Aloha. Whatever, whatever. Like, okay, dude, I'm with you. Why sit around worrying about that? But I started thinking about, is paradise all it's cracked up to be? That's really what Puba is. It's this wonderful place where everyone in the community is part of a big family. They all help each other. They know each other. But at the same time, they have to deal with the realities, and every 3 decades or so, a giant wave comes and, causes massive devastation and all. Just happened to be the day that the Bad Batch showed up.
Of
Coincidence?
Yeah.
But I was wondering if there was some symbolism, in that wherever I guess the question is, can the Bad Batch really settle down? Or is there this dark cloud that is always going to follow them and rain down on everyone that they sort of, try to settle down with, or comes into their orbit? Is it in their destiny to settle down?
I say yes. I've been feeling that, yes. And that's just because of the fatigue the characters show sometimes. And the reactions they have to things like Omega smiling and making friends. Now, as far as Pabu, they have a tsunami every 30 years. I mean, that's nothing compared to everywhere else in the Star Wars universe where you got Wampas and Sarlacc pits and
well, look at those
dragons.
Poor Mandalorians hanging out on that planet where, every week a kid gets picked off by a giant raptor lizard.
This is the way.
Yeah.
Well,
or a turtle gator.
That's part of their existence. The Mandalorians, they like to put themselves through hell, and they make no bones about it. That's part of their warrior ways. So, Pabu, the whole episode was just establishing the Bad Batch, settling in.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing Star Warsy at all about this episode. The threat to them was a natural disaster. Okay. And the Bad Batch, they help save the citizens with rope ladders. I mean, does it get as non-Star Warsy? I mean, that's as non-Star Warsy as it can get. We meet that guy. What's his name?
Shep.
Shep,
Yeah.
biggest beer belly in the history of Star Wars. We'd never seen a beer belly. Well, I mean, ice cream guy on Cloud City. He was kind of, and then of course, Jason, there's a George Foreman quality to old Shep,
for
isn't there?
sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think he probably named all of his sons Shep.
Shep. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them are named Shep.
Shep. You can see in the background of this shot, somebody's got the Shep Foreman grill back there. They're cooking up some Wampa burgers. But I mean, it was just as non-Star Wars as it gets. So it's about character, It's about these guys,
Right.
and them finding a place finally where they fit in. They're welcome with open arms. It's remote. It's far away from the galactic conflict and the Empire, and they got rope ladders. So I mean, they have everything the Bad Batch needs. And Wrecker, man, he sure fits in. What do you do?
Man.
Like in one episode, he built a pier. He constructed a skyscraper. He built the George Lucas Museum, all in one episode.
It's incredible.
Boy.
It's incredible.
Okay,
he loves it. He loves the food. He loves the drink. He loves the kids.
Yeah, and he could be a kid with those kids too.
Yeah.
So it's very, very nice. And Echo right away. He's like, "Well, what are you guys? I'm surprised you're not on Ord Mantell, running for Sid."
Yeah.
And what are you gonna do? Stay here forever? Hunter seems to think that's the best thing for them. He states that it's the best thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, you got Rex and Echo. They're out there building up a network of clone troopers. Some hiding, some working still within the Empire.
Again, they're just getting started in the batch.
Mm-hmm. And the batch are settling down.
Settling down. Let's talk about Sid for a minute. Question I've been wondering is she bluffing? She says that it's been, over 20 rotations since she's heard from them. She's losing money. That's the thing. She doesn't say, "Hey, guys, come on. I miss you guys. I miss the kid. Thought we had something going here." No, she's like, "It's been 20 rotations, and I'm losing jobs. So you better get back to me because I know a lot about you. Remember our arrangement, our agreement." So it's this sort of
I love your array of Perlman, too. It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, thanks. But the question is she really going to turn them in and bring the heat of the Empire down on her and her operation? Look what they did to Lando on Cloud City. They left the garrison, even though, he was just sort of caught in the middle of all of this, and the deal gets worse all the time. And I don't think that Sid would end up faring much better than Lando did.
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean, Lando had an entire city at his disposal, which includes law enforcement and everything else. Who knows what was going on some of those levels on Cloud City. And bounty hunters, he's got a whole iPhone filled with bounty hunter phone numbers. So, but, Sid, so she has at least that kind of underworld connection, but she doesn't have like a legitimate connection. So, with the ease that they toppled Lando out of Cloud City, such ease, they just marched in there, did whatever they want, and took over the whole city. And Lando would have been arrested had he not taken off in the Falcon. So, yeah, I think that if you compare Sid's clout to that of Lando's, she has no clout.
Yeah.
And the Empire will take her and start plucking limbs off of her just to see how fast they regrow. Just for laughs.
There's an image for you. There's an image for you.
Season 3 of The Bad Batch. Sid gets plucked. We said
Turtle
plucked.
Wars.
It's Disney Plus.
Turtle Wars jumping in with the little message here, priming the pump on the super chats. Thank you, Turtle Wars. It's very generous of you. Sal B. Crumb, I feel like there's so much to tie up with only 2 episodes left. Is it too late for a clone rebellion this season? I'm still hopeful we
Yes.
get a little nugget on why Omega is so important. Mac, you say it's too late for that plot? You think they'd have to save that for
I
another
don't say
season?
yes, I think we'll see it start
Oh, okay.
next
So
week.
maybe the match that lights the flame that
Yeah.
sparks the okay. So that might happen here at the end of season 2. And he says, I'm still hopeful we get a little nugget on why Omega is so important. I agree. I think we've had some nuggets. I feel that it's been somewhat of a lost plot point about her. They went out of their way, I felt like, several times in season 1 to talk about how special she is. Whereas season 2, it's more about helping her live a somewhat normal life. Though her flying lessons, I got to say, were pretty cool this week. I did enjoy that. I like to see her getting behind the yoke of the Marauder.
I was thinking that myself, and I think that's just setting the stage for more Pilot Omega to be emerging in this show. I would love to see the Clone Wars 2 kick off to end this season. And then I would like to see maybe some time, a little cushion of time go by. A year, 2 years, and come back with an older Omega who still has the charm of little Omega, but she's flying the Marauder around. She's like a full warrior now.
Yeah.
She's not so much a little kid. That's what I would like to see.
David has a good question here. Perhaps you in the chat or Jimmy Mack can answer his question. Doesn't the Empire think that the Bad Batch died on Kamino? And why does Hemlock think that Crosshair can help him find Omega if their records say that she's dead?
Right.
So Hemlock knows. Hemlock knows. Or doesn't he know? Does he not know what he doesn't know?
See,
Meaning,
the show has done a really bad job of this. Do they know? Don't they know? Do they know?
yeah.
The show's done a terrible job with that. I just want to say, they're gonna kill you to put us on board a Star Destroyer and give us a scene there where there's a little exposition,
Yeah.
that explains to us what's going on within the Empire. Even if they're just questioning, could they still be out there? That's all it takes.
Right.
Just let us know they're thinking about it,
Right.
instead of like, well, they're dead. And then another trooper says, oh, no, we spotted them. And so he gets shot, takes that to his grave. And then the Imperial officer who shot him, he's currently in bars, behind bars.
Yeah, Tanya's saying in the chat, well, maybe Rampart told him off screen. You know, Rampart could be singing like a canary wherever he
told him,
is.
see, but that's what I'm talking about. That's crappy
Yeah.
storytelling. Maybe,
Right.
maybe did
It
he?
is.
Didn't he? Does he know? Doesn't he know? Rampart is the key, and we should have had a scene maybe with Tarkin visiting Rampart in prison.
Rampart.
So Rampart, yeah, just because his name begins with the letter R, it makes it such a no-brainer. Why don't they call me when they're whiteboarding this stuff? They should call all of us. We should just, every writing session for anything Star Wars should happen during the RFR after shows.
I love it.
I'm proposing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to call up.
could
We
do
could
it.
have, we've got this amazing focus group of super engaged Star Wars fans that are watching every one of these episodes and then joining us to have a breakdown of each and every episode. You couldn't find a better group of people, more qualified.
Yeah. And Lucasfilm, they're totally down with group chats, group calls. I mean, for crying out loud, they wanted to put 70 people on the line to tell Gina Carano everything she was doing wrong. Remember that? They wanted her to have a Zoom call with 70 people.
Yeah, that's a big Zoom call. So Echo versus Hunter versus Wrecker versus Crosshair. I just, for some reason, I started thinking about these four characters and what they represent and what they want out of life. In the case of Echo, as we were saying, Echo is just getting started. Echo is jazzed. Echo feels that he's on the cusp of unlocking this conspiracy. And it's not that it's some hobby. He's talking what he realizes that he's stumbling on is genocide, potentially, of his brothers, of the clones. They're being systematically wiped out. They were able to find, through tech decrypting the data, they were able to find logs of transfer of clones, and some of them just disappear. Mm-hmm. That's the scary part. We don't know where they're going. And then you've got Hunter, as we talked about. Hunter is battle weary, tired, feeling not just maybe a fatigue for himself, but he's the leader too. And they're always looking at him. Everyone's looking at him. And he's sort of a father figure to Omega. And it's just like all these responsibilities have compounded on him.
He bears that weight.
And then there's Wrecker. And Wrecker, I've never seen him happier than in these episodes. He's got kids to play with. He's a big, strapping, strong guy. He can contribute to this community because he's the biggest guy on that island. So he can find purpose and meaning, and also he's well fed, well watered, well entertained. And then you've got Crosshair. What's he looking for? You know, what drives him, what motivates him? I don't think I know anymore, because everything for Crosshair is completely vanished. He can't really be a soldier, because a soldier to what? Loyal to who? Working for who? So these characters, I just thought, I was thinking as I was watching these episodes, all four of them really just stood out to me as being so very different, yet obviously they're very much the same according to their DNA. And, you know, they're all mixed up into this series, and we're seeing where they end up, what makes them tick. I don't mean tech, I mean tick. So it's a really, you were talking about it being a character story, and yes, I think I came away with this thinking I know these characters probably better after these two episodes, I think, than I ever have. And it took Wrecker running around with little kids on the island, I think, for it to really crystallize to me, you know, what it is that this guy wants. He just wants to feel needed. He just wants to feel that he's contributing. It doesn't have to be intergalactic conflict. It can just be, I'm helping you catch these fish. I'm helping you rebuild this dock.
And in return, appreciation and respect.
Yeah.
Hunter,
right.
I mean, Wrecker just wants to be loved. That's all. He just wants to be loved. And I think at the end of the day, he's more of a lover than a fighter, if given the choice.
Right.
If given the choice. So, yeah, I don't see him getting triggered at a bar by somebody saying something on Pabu and then smacking the crap out of him. I see a Wrecker that would walk away from that fight, which sort of betrays his entire existence as a soldier and a warrior to begin with. But I think if given the choice, finally for once in his life, given the choice, Wrecker would just be one of the good old boys.
Yep.
Everyone loves Wrecker.
Right.
You know, he's just one of those guys. He fit right in Mayberry, for crying out loud. Pabu basically is the Star Wars Mayberry.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. It is. And that makes Shep, I guess, Andy Taylor. Sheriff Taylor.
He's Andy. Definitely.
I think Wrecker is sort of Otis the town drunk.
Yeah, he is. I was thinking it myself.
Without the booze.
And there's no doubt that Tech is Barney Fife.
Oh, is he ever Barney Fife? I'll tell you what.
He's totally Barney Fife. And Sid would have to be, of course, Aunt B.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Fee Genoa.
Fee is Aunt B.
Which we didn't talk about.
B. Oh, I think we're onto something.
About Fee. Is Fee the real deal? You know, we were very suspicious of Fee. We thought she might just be sort of a slightly more attractive Sid, you know. But is she the real deal? Did we see the real Fee taking the Bad Batch to Pabu and introducing them to Shep? Or is it
Okay? With Fee, did we see her leave? Did she
we
leave?
did not see her
Pabu?
leave. I don't.
Yeah,
we
it was
did not
just
see
like
her
she
leave.
was there at the beginning. She was there at the beginning when they were presenting that ceramic tree to the people, and then what happened to Fee, ladies and gentlemen? Does anybody remember? Was she? Is she still there? Did she leave?
No reason
Because
to think
here's the
she's not
thing.
there.
Here's the true test of the type of person she is. She has very privileged information, very sensitive information. She knows where the Bad Batch is.
Right.
The Empire's looking for the Bad Batch. Sid is looking for the Bad Batch. And anyone else? No. So, like, she's going to put bounty hunters out after them. That's the next step. Bounty hunters coming after the Bad Batch. I would love if it was a bounty hunter with some marquee value, like a Dengar or a boss. Boss could make sense because Fee is a Trandoshan.
Right. Well, we already saw Fennec Shand show up in Bad Batch season 1.
Fennec. I think there you go. I think she would be the one, right?
Yeah.
Fennec would go out hunting for them.
She's found them before.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, she would show them compassion because Fennec Shan is what we consider a good guy.
Well, she's honorable, right? I think she's honorable.
Honorable. Yes.
We do
Bounty
have the
hunter
phone
with
number, by the way, up on the screen, 708-866-1737. Our call screener, the great Tyler Page, is... yeah, there he is. He's already screened a few calls for us. We've got him in the queue. We'll be getting to those shortly, so thank you for your patience. But that number, 708-866-1737. And we do put our Patreon supporters at the head of the line, but that doesn't mean that you can't call if you're not a Patreon supporter. So we'll get to those calls here in just a moment. Senator Chuchi, we saw her in this episode, one of these two episodes. I guess it was the second episode. And my question about Chuchi is she working in the shadows? Because we did see her very publicly showing her support in front of the Senate. But yet, at the same time, we also see her kind of, there she is with Echo, and she is aware now that there's this sort of clone conspiracy going on. So is she kind of in that, maybe that Mon Mothma role in a sense where she's sort of leading the double life? There's part of her that's living very publicly out there as an advocate, but when the lights are off, she's actually assisting some of these refugee clones, maybe some of these clones that are wanted by the Empire, playing it both ways. Not sure where she's...
Well, it only makes sense, though, for her to be doing that. I mean, she's publicly been seen in the Senate advocating for the rights of the clones. She's on their side. Everyone knows that. So to see her, fraternizing, I can't even say that. I'm so stuffed up. Thank you. Fraternizing. Oh my God. Sorry, everyone. In the last 24 hours, this sucker has hit me hard. Fraternizing.
That's okay. I finally learned how to use a cough button between last night and tonight.
And that's the joys of live streaming,
That's
all
right.
the warts are out there, all the mispronunciations, all the bodily functions. It's all there, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So, but she's known, she's publicly known as an advocate of the clone troopers. So to see her then palling around with clone troopers publicly, that would make sense, as somebody who's working on their behalf. It's not like clone troopers are outlaws.
Right. That's true. That's true.
They do still exist. But you notice that the Empire seems to only favor the clone commandos. So they only want the cream of the crop right now. That's all they're willing to tolerate. The regs are getting sent off to the beach or the beach, or when the dog gets sent to the farm,
right? Well, there's this wonderful old farm a couple hours away. We took Tucker out there, and he's having the time of his life running around.
Fields of plenty.
So before we get to the calls, last thing I want to mention is, Hunter at the end of this, Jim, after Tech is able to confirm that Crosshair is one of the clones that has ended up sort of on this vessel that has taken them to these, God knows where, doing God knows what with them.
Well, he just knows that that Crosshair is in the custody of this secret.
That's right, the secret science center, and
they don't really know where he's being held specifically, because that stuff is all the only information they could find was the name of the guy who's running that whole thing, and that's Hemlock. That was the only information they can find.
But he does think to look for this transmission that comes through, this Plan 88 or Project 88. I thought it was Project, but it might be Plan 88. He sends that off. And, by the way, that was pretty cool because I thought that was fun. The way they designed that is it was like right out of A New Hope, wasn't it? When he goes into that little booth to send off the transmission, it kind of looks like where Han was like, we're all fine here now. Here.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, a typical Imperial computer deskware there. That's a standard gear swank. I believe that's the TRZ 4300 Imperial Officer Command Desk, and the smaller one is the XRL Trooper Pooper.
But here's the question: is Crosshair smells a trap? He thinks, and he's not Crosshair. I'm sorry, Hunter smells a trap, and he's the tracker.
Yes,
and we don't have any reason to believe that Crosshair is working with any of these guys. What we're seeing on screen is playing out that he's a victim of all of this. But it seems to me that whether Crosshair realizes it or not, the trap might already be set.
Mm-hmm.
Hemlock is the one that's setting the trap, and maybe Crosshair's the bait at this point, because he knows that Crosshair sent out that transmission. They gassed him. He collapses, and then he wakes up, on the bed there with one of those interrogation droids getting ready to do its thing. So either way, it is a trap. It just isn't Crosshair's trap. It's Hemlock's trap.
It's a hell of a mission to be going on, but I mean, what do these guys got to lose other than life in paradise on Pabu? What do they got to lose?
Yeah, right.
Other than their lives, they just do what they do. But yeah, it is and that's okay. I talked about something that bothered me about this show and the fact that, who knows what, all that stuff. But I do love the way that it's setting up all of this stuff to lead us to think that, hey, this is like the impossible mission these guys are going on. And what more compelling situation do you want to put your protagonist in any sort of story than the most impossible situation, see how they get out of it. So I like where this is heading. I really do. I wonder what they're injecting Crosshair with, though. They increased the injection level at the very end of the episode. Increase his injection level. And then the IG or interrogator droid floats over there with the needle. It just jams it right in his neck. Yeah. Jams it right in there. And then look, his eyes are all like rolling back in his head and stuff. What are they sticking him with, I wonder? But I just have a little listener feedback here from Dominique in the RFR Facebook group who says, I was triggered by a moment in The Bad Batch, but it regards every media, not just The Bad Batch. I've been working in healthcare for 30 years, including 25 in an ER. We do not inject the neck. Nobody nowhere even stick a needle in a neck. It's effing dangerous. The only exception is in a jugular 4 access, an invasive procedure that requires a lot of skill and some surgical equipment. So, I mean, really, if you stick anything into your neck, It's like, the Beverly Hillbillies striking oil. So, but
That's an image.
But Dominique goes on, still in every movie, TV show, comic book, animation, from Dexter to CSI to Bad Batch. Since the dawn of television, people have been sticking needles in necks with a 90-degree angle.
Oh,
Everyone knows this is not a thing, but they still do it. So, Dominique, I just wanted to get that out there. Maybe, you won't be so triggered now knowing that it's out there for everyone to agree with you, because that is ridiculous when you think of it.
oh,
Stick
sure.
a needle in the neck.
Yeah. Don't do that at home, kids. Unless you're a trained
not
professional.
unless you have plastic covering all over the furniture.
All right, let's go off to the phones. Off to the phones we go. We're going to make sure our Patreon supporters get to the head of the line. Let's start with Brian from New Jersey. Brian, you're on with Rebel Force Radio and the Bad Batch After Show. Hello, hello.
Hey, chat, guys.
Hey, chat, buddy.
Shut.
Alrighty, so obviously, there's some strengths and some weaknesses when it comes to the Bad Batch, but I wanted to talk with you guys about what I think is a no doubt about it consistent strength of the show, and that is its music, its score, its soundtrack. I got a specific example I wanted to talk about, and then some commentary on it after. The specific example is coming from the first little bit of Tipping Point, when the Star Destroyer shows up at the end of the rescue, when Echo and Gregor go rescue Hauser and the other clone prisoners, and you get those 4 big bombastic intro notes from the Imperial March hit me right in the chest, but it doesn't completely play out.
Right.
Honestly, a bit of a tease, but I really think it's a good way to show, but not even just show us visually or with any dialogue, letting us know that this empire we're seeing, they're still trying to build up to be that big bad empire that we eventually see, in Rebels and the original trilogy and everything like that. But for right now, they're only about halfway there. They're still at the beginning stages.
I do like that. It was that bomb, 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 bomb. And that was it. That was all you needed. That's probably all that they could afford.
Yep.
From the John Williams library. Well, we know, we know that those themes are not free. Those themes are not free for Lucasfilm. They have to pay the royalties for that.
Absolutely. It's only half a royalty for this time around.
Right. I agree. And I'll tell you what, I've been a little bit hard on what's the composer right now working on Mandalorian? Shipley?
Joseph Shirley?
Joseph Shirley.
Yeah, Joe Shirley, yeah.
I think that Kevin Kiner, I'd like to see Kevin Kiner get the Mando job. I think Kevin Kiner could graduate from animation and show Joseph Shirley a thing or two about composing for Star Wars, because I think there's a much more lush orchestral sound coming out of Kiner than Shirley.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, Kevin, he works with his 2 brothers too. We should give them credit as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
2 brothers that
the Kiners.
Well. The Kiner brothers. The brothers. We got to save the brothers.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Love the props for the music. Couldn't agree more. Back we go. More Patreons on the line. We've got Marty from Georgia. Hello, Marty. You're back with Rebel Force Radio and the Bad Batch After Show. What's up?
Hey, chat, fellas. How you guys doing tonight?
All right.
Just want to talk about just being the Clone Wars lover that I am, just seeing Hauser again, because I loved him in season 1, because when I was watching Clone Wars growing up, it felt like every week you get a really new clone commander with a badass suit of armor who's got a pretty cool personality. And seeing Hauser in season 1, I was like, this guy's so cool. He has a cool hairstyle and a cool set of armor. And then when he stood up to the Empire, I thought they took him off to be killed. But then I just knew, like, right off the top of my head, I was like, that's Hauser because of the hairdo. Which I'm just amazed that he was in prison for so long and still has the same hairstyle.
Well,
but,
they give you some comforts of home. Hey, I have a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you or Mac? What are the names of the clones that were in Rebels and they were fishing there with Rex? Who were
Gregor?
That was Wolf and Gregor and Rex.
Wolf and Gregor. Yeah.
Wolf, Gregor, and Rex. So there are only three. Okay.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
haven't seen, unless I'm really missing something, we haven't seen Wolf yet. So we've seen Gregor, we've seen Rex.
Mhm.
Wolf is still out there somewhere, which I'm hoping that story thread gets tied up. I want to know where Wolf is and how he gets to be on the planet with them.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up joining with Echo and Rex with this effort that we're seeing. I tell you what, guys,
Right.
I'm kind of digging what they're doing with Echo and Rex. I'm not suggesting that they're going to do it, but I wouldn't be mad if there was some sort of spin-off after the Bad Batch that followed them in some of their efforts, because they're kind of like in it. I mean, not that I don't find the Bad Batch's story compelling. And Jim, I thought you brought up an awesome point, which is, what if this is a story in a galaxy far, far away that's just about these fantastical characters that just want to settle down and lead normal lives, and that's going to be it for them. I don't want to sit and necessarily watch, Mayberry RFD, the Bad Batch version, but maybe it would be passing the baton over to Echo and Rex and Gregor and Wolf, and seeing how they go about fighting the Empire. And I wouldn't be mad about that.
Because I would love to see that, because when we see him in Rebels, they're to the point where it's almost like a retirement community. Like, I remember Callus checks in on them at one point, and
That's right.
I want to see how they get there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
making sure they're still alive.
That's really all I want to say. That's all I really want to say. Thank you, guys. This has been a very these after shows have been a very wholesome experience.
Thank
It's
you.
the midpoint of my week, and it's just something that really just gives me enough strength to make it to Friday. So thank you guys for all you do.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you very much, Marty. That's very kind.
Yeah,
of you to
Marty's
say.
right. I'm sad thinking that next week is the last week. We're getting multiple
It's a
new
two for
editions
next week,
of Star
isn't it?
Wars story. It's the
Is
last
next week
week.
two episodes? Hey,
We'll get
and
2
by the
episodes of
way,
the Bad Batch.
we're finally on level playing field with all the other shill media. They haven't seen these last 2 episodes, right?
Right.
That's
They
good.
probably already have forgotten the Bad Batch, and they're writing protest letters because Willow was canceled or something. I don't know. Give me a break. But we're in here every week. We're in here, down in the trenches with everyone. And we're getting up at 2 a.m. to watch these episodes sometimes. And we're, it's fresh. It's fresh to us, and it's happening, and it's now. It's not some orchestrated PR gameplay. This is real fandom going on here at Rebel Force Radio.
It is. You're on the front lines of fandom right here. John Greaves with a super chat says, Fee recognizes, because I was asking the question about, Fee, is she the real deal? What's in it for her? He says, Fee recognizes that Pabu is defenseless, so she brings them soldiers. Bad Batch with the potential to add more clone soldiers later. It could be. Maybe that is the plot. Maybe it is going to be sort of a retirement home for retired soldiers, and wouldn't that be great for the people of Pabu? It gives you sort of a built-in defense. It's not a bad idea.
Fee, beyond recognizing they're defenseless, it almost seems like Fee might be one of them. She might have come from the planet itself. They seem very familiar with it. They were calling her Auntie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So those are her own people. So maybe, she's working a few steps ahead of everyone here, and she has access to these super soldiers and really capable military guys, and she can implant them on her home world.
Well, Hunter does ask Shep, aren't you worried about the Empire? And Shep says that they're essentially the same thing that Lando says to Han, we're too little to be noticed. Nobody cares. Nobody's interested.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Hunter knows better that anyone and everyone is at risk. Nobody can. And isn't that, that's what we see with Andor, with Marva. That's part of her big speech, is that she too thought that the tanks would just roll out and roll on, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They stay there and they keep the boot on the neck. And she wished that she'd have started fighting sooner. So no one is immune to this. And eventually the chickens come home to roost. So it could be that Fee realizes that could happen and she wants to make sure that they have some sort of reinforcements. It's a good thought.
Great thought.
Back to the phones. We've got Matt, Patreon supporter from L.A. Matt from L.A., you're on with RFR and the Bad Batch After Show.
Guys.
Chut, my man.
Hey, Maddie.
Good to talk. Hello, yet again.
Yes.
So I got a bit of a extension of what you guys were talking about. I'm loving the start of the Clone Rebellion here, guys. I think today's episode officially put it on, right? Or at least the most recent one, Tipping Point. I love how it's almost like a Rebels, like the show style opening, it feels like, with the Ghost crew coming in and rescuing someone from the Imperials. I got those same vibes. And, over the course of the entire show, I'm trying to think, what is the through line for this? And it's that we've been meeting other clones, living other lives. And from, obviously the Bad Batch to Cutler Quain, Hauser, Cody, Echo, Gregor, and eventually Wolf, which was just mentioned. We haven't seen him yet, but I expect him to show up. And this is building the leaders of the Clone Rebellion, ultimately building off to, of course, Clone Wars 2 Electric Boogaloo. And that's what we're going to get. And I'm here for it. I don't want to see my boys go down without a fight. I don't want to see him commissioned off to the farm. These clones have been bred to do one thing and one thing only, and that's a fight. And I think that we are going to get that. I think you were on to it when you said that we're going to see, just the beginning of it with the last part of this season. But the question is, what's going to get the Bad Batch invested out of Pabu and invested to fight with Echo and Rex and all them? What do you guys think?
I think it's going to, for them to get involved, I think it's going to have to endanger Omega. I think that's the commonality for all of the Bad Batchers of where their loyalties are. Obviously, their loyalties are very strong with each other, but I think that somehow Omega is going to have to be a target that will draw them in. Outside of that, it's hard to imagine because Hunter's basically putting all the signals out there for Echo saying, we're kind of done. I'm kind of thinking this is where we're going to be forever.
Absolutely. And another thing that we should keep in mind is that not only will the threat be to Omega, but it will be to the people of Pabu. Push will come to shove and the Bad Batch won't be allowed to stay there anymore. They're going to get smoked out. The decision is going to be removed from them. For now, like Jason said, firmly going to settle down. They see, maybe even a little stubborn about it. We're not going anywhere. Maybe it'll turn into that. Maybe it'll turn into some debating between Echo and Hunter, and they'll just determine they're going to stay there, and then they get smoked out. Boom, they're back in the game again. All signs are pointing to Omega. All arrows are pointing to Omega, and I just think push will come to shove, and they're going to get smoked out of Pabu, and out of necessity, have to return to the war front. Yeah.
Matt, what do you think about the possibility of these guys ever being able to actually settle down? We were talking last night on the Mando After Show about, really, is it realistic to think of Grogu as a Mandalorian? Is that really his destiny? Is it really the destiny of the Bad Batch just to, essentially just live the great island lifestyle and watch their brothers go off perhaps and fight in another conflict?
Oh boy, Jason, I sure wish it could be true, but I see a tragic end to most of these characters coming up.
Really?
If not, some sort of martyr style to basically fuel the initial fires that lights the spark of their rebellion, like we were saying. But I think that they are going to have solace on Pabu for a time, like you mentioned, but it's not going to last. And we're going to see a little bit of hope before eventually we find out that the Empire's reaches are remote enough to find Pabu, and that they can, find something on the planet of Pabu and that they can use and exploit for their own gain. And in fact, I think we are going to see at some point, and this is just a little personal prediction, I think we're going to hear the Empire call the majority of clones bad batches, which could, tie into what you were saying with the spinoff that, maybe we lose a member of the Bad Batch coming up in these next two episodes, but we gain another, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's Gregor, who is a permanent part of
Crazy
the
to think about Bad Batch becoming crazy to think about Bad Batch becoming like a slanderous word to use about the clones, the disloyal clones. Wow. That's
They're
crazy.
all Bad Batchers
and
now.
that's the Empire's game.
And Matt, when you mentioned about there being a tragic end for the Bad Batch, that seemed to resonate with Mac. He was like, "Yep, I'm thinking that." It seemed like that was something that you were also
No, not all of them.
Okay.
Not all of them. Some of them. But I believe that the three sole survivors will be Omega, Wrecker, and Hunter. They'll retire to Pabu, and that'll be that. But the beautiful thing about that is they can be reactivated at any given point if the story requires it. So, while they still might be living the fat life there, they are valuable assets that could further be exploited to fight against the Empire. So it could be the end for the Bad Batch series. I could see it ending that way, but still keeping the potential of those characters returning in some way, shape, or form in future storytelling active. And, Tech, he'll probably be the one to bite the bullet. And Crosshair, we know Crosshair he's not going to survive.
He's had tragedy written all over him from
Echo could he could go as well. Yeah. Those three, I think, are your most likely candidates for the Veterans Graveyard. But
great call,
Clone
Matt.
Wars
Thanks
2
very
Electric.
much.
Thanks. Clone Wars 2 Electric Boogaloo immediately conjures up mental images of Wrecker breakdancing.
Oh man,
I was not beatboxing, ladies and gentlemen. That was not an actual beatbox.
That wasn't you. That was
no.
What were you just demon possessed for a second?
Was.
We got a Patreon member. We got Phil. Phil calling from El Paso. Hello, Phil. Welcome to the RFR After Show.
Chut, guys. How are you?
Chut. Doing well.
I was calling with Pabu. I kind of thought it was going to be one of those sideline kind of shows,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then I think I could see that it's adding that aspect of tragedy for the future. It's given us a sight into what they could hope for, and something that will make somebody's death be hurt a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So they're setting up some stakes for the Bad Batch to lose. Now they've got something else other than just Omega to lose, which is Pabu.
Right.
Right. I think it adds that aspect. You know, they have that hope now of at some point being able to, go on to a peaceful retirement in a really sweet place, retirement kind of place,
Yeah. So if something happens to Pabu, man, that's all of their hopes and dreams. Now they have nothing left to lose. Imagine them without Omega, without Pabu. Man, you want to think of a dangerous individual. Think about Hunter without Omega and without Pabu. They talk about a guy that has nothing to lose.
Oh yeah.
I like what the caller's saying, though. I think there's a lot of storytelling potential in that. I think there's you're thinking in the right direction here. We're not being introduced to Pabu just to give these guys a break, to give them a vacation. This is setting up something bigger in the future. And I like the idea that just Pabu itself could be something that the loss of that will force the Bad Batch's hand, give them something to fight for, and fight for survival as well. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Anything else, Phil?
No, just love the show, and always I'm enjoying Wednesdays now. We got the Mandalorian, and then you switch over to the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch has really been firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, both shows have been great, and they've been so fun to talk about on these after shows. And you guys, we get our own show. Like, you guys calling in is sort of like we have a show to listen to. Right now, it's Phil from El Paso. It's his show, so it's fun for us as well. Thanks, buddy, and thanks for your support on the Patreon. Hey, he wasn't here last night. There was a lot of concern, but he's here tonight. We got Blake and Blake's take. Blake, there was all kinds of concern, buddy.
Hey.
Dude, everybody was like, where's Blake? Is Blake okay? He hasn't called on Mandalorian. But luckily, your old man sent word that you were doing okay. You were at a baseball tournament or something. A baseball game, Little League, something going on?
Yeah, we were playing this other middle school team.
Oh, yeah? Yeah,
We
what do you
won.
play? Do you play baseball?
Hey, they won.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear.
All right, dude.
They won.
But you won. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that is
winning.
all that matters.
Yeah. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. That's the words of the great Jesse the Body
Don't listen to
Ventura.
Uncle Jason. You get him kicked out of the league, Swank.
Just kidding. All right, Blake, what do you got for us this week on the Bad Batch After Show? 2 episodes to talk about this week.
All right, I got 2 things to talk about. They're all from, so I guess it could tie into last episode in some way, like if you think about it, but I'm just going to keep on going.
You keep going.
Omega has been learning how to fly.
Right.
And next week is the season finale, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, it's the final 2 episodes. All right. So I think Omega is going to be like their getaway flyer, kind of like how there's a getaway like driver in situations. They're going to be saving troopers or something. Maybe like some big high stake. They're running away from the Empire kind of stuff.
Okay.
And Omega is going to be their flyer to get out of there. She's going to fly them off the planet to go to wherever they need to go.
I like it.
I like it.
Yep.
He's reading the foreshadowing, Jason. He's connecting the dots.
Think of how many times
sniffing the tea leaves.
Think of how many times Hunter or Tech has flown the Havoc Marauder in at the last second to save Omega. We saw it happen with in this episode with the big flood, with the big tsunami. Now it's the tide is turned. Yeah,
Yeah, so now she's going to save them.
She's the one. Yeah.
In the situation.
Right. I love it.
All right, Blake.
All right.
Blake, if it's right, you will win the governor's award, whatever that is.
All right, that was the
Blake,
first one.
That's good speculation. If it comes true, we'll acknowledge it somehow.
We definitely
we'll
will.
make a big whoop-de-doo about it.
Yeah, we'll get FJ DeSanto to proclaim you prophet.
Ooh. The word before it might be beeped out, but you'll be the
right.
beep
Prophet. All right, you said you had 2. Lay the other one on us.
Yeah. All right, so my second thing is to how they might get hunted, how the season might end. So, we know that Fee is the only one, besides all the people on that planet, know where the Bad Batch are right now. Well, besides Echo, Rex, and them.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I think that maybe she might accidentally slip like where they're at to Sid. And then Sid might find out.
Oh,
And
so
so with
Fee
that-
might be the one that accidentally slips to Sid?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, she might accidentally say, well, where the Bad Batch is. So then Sid will tell whatever organization they're running, but she'll probably most likely tell the Empire, and the Empire will tell them, and all that. Yeah, since she's a Trandoshan.
Well, we definitely know that there's no love lost between Sid and Fee. And so Fee is, reaffirming what the Bad Batch is thinking in terms of Sid not being good for them, not looking out for their best interests, and all of that. So maybe in Fee's zeal to kind of have one up on Sid, somehow she lets it slip, or Sid figures out where they are because of, maybe something that she hears in the background with Fee saying, hey, I got you boys. And you know what? They're loving it. They're loving it here. I'm giving them what you never could. So I got one up on you. However it goes. But that somehow Sid might know where this Pabu is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, because she could probably be talking to them, kind of just like how you were saying, and then she could just let it slip, or maybe Sid will follow her, or something like that. And also, maybe the way we end this is probably maybe the final season of the Bad Batch. So, Rex, Echo, and Cody might have like their own kind of show, kind of like the Clone Wars, to where they're fighting the stormtroopers. They could redo a bunch of stuff to where they can go save all the clone troopers and all be safe and not have to be like killed, stuff like that.
Do you think, Mac, would they dare have another series called The Clone Wars, but be about the second Clone War?
Are you kidding me? They relish that opportunity, because Disney was a little ignorant when they took over Lucasfilm, and they looked at the Clone Wars as an extension of the prequels. And the Disney company had a big case of prequelitis when they first took over Star Wars. And so they just cut the head off of Clone Wars without even thinking about it. And that's why we were making so much noise about it, because we got tipped off about this nefarious activity early on. And so we started in a whole writing campaign, #Save the Clone Wars. People call me Chicken Little. But now Disney sees the facts. You can't deny the facts. The Clone Wars is extremely popular. And any opportunity to resuscitate the series they killed, they'll jump all over it. Now, what's the Clone Wars without Dave Filoni? That's the big question. I know Dave is an executive producer on the Bad Batch, but his footprint is really expanding in live action right now. And there's only one Dave Filoni, as far as I'm aware of. So he can't be everywhere all at once. However, the Clone Wars has been going on for a long time, and there are a lot of people, veteran guys left over from the Lucas animation days, who are still working on the Bad Batch. Maybe those guys can have the right amount of creative
they can
input.
Work on it and make the Clone Wars.
Stuart Lee, Matt Miknovitz, both
maybe.
names that were
right.
writers
Joel
of the
Aaron's
Clone Wars.
still there.
Right.
Keith Kellogg is still there. So you do have some creatives still in the mix.
Now, Lauren just put up here in the chat, and I think it's worth bringing up. Hey, Blake, thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. We know it's time for you to go to bed. So you call us next week. We love to hear from you. Blake's Take, ladies and
Thanks.
gentlemen. Lauren brings up something, Jim. We were talking about this a little bit last night with the Mandalorian after show. She says, I'm worried with all the shows that Disney has been canceling. Bad Batch is next. Do you think that Bad Batch could be on the chopping block from Bob Iger? Is it possible?
Oh, yeah. I think everything's a target right now. We've seen how Marvel has kind of reassessed the slate that they've previously announced. I'm hearing mad rumors flying around everywhere about the Acolyte possibly not even seeing a full season, that they're only going to produce a pilot for it.
Wow.
Yeah,
a pilot that would actually air?
It's rumor, total rumor. Total rumor. And it's just something I read. But I mean, so like these things are there, it's all flying around, you know. I also heard a rumor that Lucasfilm was told only Star Wars projects from this point forward. No messing around with things like a Willow or once this Indiana Jones film comes and goes, that's going to be it. There was
I still want an
talk
indie
that there was
animated series, man. I still want to see an indie animated series. I would love it. I don't know that they could pull it off, Lucasfilm. I'm thinking like Batman animated series style, you know, like a little grittier, a little dirtier. I think it could be really fun, but yeah, I don't know about the
gosh. I mean, so like it's just been a floodgate of all these rumors, like floodgate opening, ever since the Damon Lindelof news broke on Monday.
Right.
And I've heard everything from if Kathleen Kennedy doesn't release a film by that target date in 2025, she's out. But I mean, how many Kathleen Kennedy is out rumors have we heard? But still, it's the bubble is bursting here, everyone. I mean, for real. Even I think Kathy's most ardent supporters have got to acknowledge the fact that Lucasfilm has been mismanaged. They have to. I think anybody with two eyes can see it. And so where do we go from here? What's the other rumor I heard? Okay, the Acolyte, the thing about Kathy. Oh, and that Lucasfilm, only does Star Wars projects.
Yeah.
So the Indiana Jones. There was a spin-off under consideration about Abner Ravenswood, Marion's father, or the Ravenswood family. I really don't know much information about this. But now people are saying that any plans for that have been totally scrapped because Disney has requested or ordered Lucasfilm only Star Wars. Children of Blood and Stone, a novel Lucasfilm acquired the rights for, that project went belly up last year when the writer found Lucasfilm difficult to work with, and she took the story to another studio. So that's just like that stuff I heard. You know, I give credit if I could remember where I soaked this stuff in, because I wasn't planning on even talking about it tonight, but it's out there. It's out there, and it's wild and crazy. And people are talking, and things are getting canceled left and right by not just Lucasfilm and Disney, but all kind of studios. I mean, Warner Brothers, for holy smokes.
Let's go back to the phones. We've got a Patreon member, Emily. Is this Emily from Kansas?
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
All right, thanks.
Good to hear from you.
Thanks. Yeah. So I had something I wanted to mention about episode 12, actually. I meant to, I didn't get a chance to call, but you guys were having this discussion about why Crosshair missed his shot. And when that like explosion went off.
Yeah, it was a little confusing for me. Yeah, he had him in the scope, and then everything kind of went bright, and it was like he couldn't hear. Yeah. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of obvious that I think he's having some PTSD from in season 1 when that remember when he's chasing the Bad Batch and he gets like roasted by that one ship. And there was a lot of explosions. I think maybe he was experiencing a bit of trauma with that. And so that's why he didn't hit the guy straight on, and he missed a little bit, and then there was that trail that they followed. So just that little bit. That.
So he was having a flashback, maybe of some sorts, or a moment there.
He was having yeah, I think it was just a little bad memory moment. So.
Well, that's cool. Well, Emily, you're a Patreon supporter.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. What do you?
Yeah.
I know you wanted to talk about an episode, 2 or 3 episodes ago, but what about this week and what we're talking about? Crosshair, him, potentially turning good, I guess you might say, protecting the Bad Batch, protecting Omega. What do you think about that?
I like it. I was a little, he seemed like super caring of Omega suddenly. But who knows? Maybe he's just. But I really liked this episode. I thought it was really good seeing like a triple cross episode almost, like seeing what Echo's up to, other Bad Batch were up to, and then what Crosshair's up to. I can't help but think they'll join together in something. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Who's your favorite character in the Bad Batch?
To be honest, I think it's probably Crosshair and Tech.
I knew you were going to say Crosshair. That's why I asked the question. I knew you were going to say Crosshair because you called up and you had some concern about Crosshair and the PTSD, and I'm not saying you were making excuses for him, but I'm just saying I could tell by the tone of your voice that you had some compassion for Crosshair. I think that's wonderful. I'm not judging at all. I think that's great that you have a.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character, Swank? Which one is yours?
In Bad Batch,
mm-hmm.
Probably Hunter. Honestly, I know that seems kind of simple.
So bland.
He's the leader and bland, but no, I like Hunter. Even though he's sort of taken a bit of a back seat this season, in some ways, I respect and am interested in some of the issues that he's dealing with, the pressure that he feels in his life. So I appreciate that. Emily, thanks for the call. That's awesome, and really appreciate your support of Rebel Force.
Did you want to know my favorite Bad Batch?
Well,
character?
Okay, I've got 2 questions for you, actually. First of all,
nobody cares who my favorite character is?
I want to know who your favorite Star Wars character is today.
Bo-Katan.
Okay, love it. And who is your favorite Bad Batch character?
Gonky. I think he's the most compelling.
Gonky was in this episode this week.
It's the story that's shrouded in the most mystery. And I think there could be a Kitster in there.
What?
We'll find out.
Inside?
Yes.
Inside. Gonky showed up. He was right there in between Tech and Omega as she was having her flying lesson. He even got some lines. Gonky.
This is my favorite part of both episodes.
All right. How about Drew from Ohio? Drew calling from the Buckeye State. Hello.
Chuck, guys. How we doing?
Hey, buddy. Doing all right. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Double dip here on the episode. So wanted to run through a few thoughts I had first, and pretty much most apparent to me on the Pabu episode is that the Bad Batch cannot have nice things. And that's made very clear in that episode where we get this ocean island paradise and what seems like the life. I agree with some of the other callers of that it's either set up to give some stakes in a interesting way and or to show us what they are ultimately going to lose, which is what I think is going to end up happening, unfortunately, to our Clone Force 99, is a tragic end. I view, if you've ever seen the show Spartacus, War of the Damned is the last season. We all know what the end outcome is, and that's how I feel about the Bad Batch, unfortunately, is that they're going to ultimately meet their demise. Maybe not all of them, but a good chunk of them. I'm holding out hope that that's not necessarily the case, but I don't know that they're going to.
Who survives? What do you think, Drew?
Happy.
Who lasts? Mac was saying Omega, Hunter, and Wrecker as the three
And
that would
Gonky.
survive.
And
Gonky.
I mean, if I had to give well, Gonky for sure.
Right.
No, I think if any of them are going to survive, I think Echo and Crosshair are the first to go, in my opinion, and then that leaves kind of the rest of them. I could see Hunter sacrificing himself for Omega, so that to me, it's probably only Omega, and potentially for the cloning big somehow Palpatine return reasons.
Yeah,
she would be the lone survivor of the bunch.
I have a note here.
Dark.
I hope that's not the
Too
case.
dark. I don't think it could end that way. That's too dark. You take this 11-year-old girl and just doom her to a life of hell. That's how it
tortured.
ends. Yeah, Palpatine wins. I don't want to see that happen. That'll never happen.
But I have a note. I have a note. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
It just seems like all of the media that and I'm actually reading some of the novels right now that are sort of set in some of that time period. And after The Shadow of the Sith, I'm actually listening to right now, and it's talking about all this Palpatine stuff, and I think it's doing a good job of helping connect some of that tissue. But gosh, it just seems like there's that theme running through a lot of it. So I would like a happier ending, but maybe I'm setting my expectations low.
Drew, I have a note here that says that you made an observation about Crosshair's signal.
Yeah, so Crosshair's signal is perceived differently by each of the Bad Batch, and I think it just kind of shows all of their separate personalities. You know, Echo has to relay the message because he's in the military mindset, right? He's driving this clone rebellion. He's got to get this this information across to them. It ends up being that they find out it's Crosshair, but that's kind of the initial spark of it. Tech just gives the facts. He relays the message as it is with kind of no emotion. Wrecker is all excited that his boy is back, and somehow Crosshair's like, we got to go get him. And Hunter is reserved, wants to give up his life that he sees there for not just himself, but the rest of his crew, the rest of the Bad Batch there on Pabu. And I think ultimately, kind of like in other instances throughout the season and throughout the show, that Hunter, although he's somewhat reluctant, will eventually go along with the greater, the good of the order there, if you will, maybe to their own detriment, but eventually to have some hope and go try and save their brother or figure out what it is that is trying, with the clones that are being taken and disappearing mysteriously. Although he doesn't seem like he wants to join, he will. Before I let you go, I did want to point out the one more funnier, more positive note, because it seems like I've been pretty dark here. He has got the hot for Tech, and whether that's real or in jest, whether it's a Montanata Chewbacca type relationship or she really feels that way.
Really? Fee and Tech, huh?
Well, Wrecker acknowledged this. He acknowledged this. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing he said.
Yeah, he said,
but
brown eyes. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
Wrecker did kind of acknowledge this when they arrived on Pabu, and Fee walked over to Shep, and did Wrecker say something like, "Hey, you lost your chance," thinking that Fee and Shep.
That's right. Like he assumed that there was some romance between Fee and Shep.
But then it was more of a family connection.
Right.
From what we could tell.
Almost he was like a brother to Fee, Shep.
Well, that's what I get, but I mean, maybe because the kids call her auntie, they don't call her the guy, they don't call him Uncle Shemp,
But he
or
could be
whatever his name
Dad.
is.
So that would still be
Okay,
Auntie.
I know. I'm
Could be like
just
a-
looking for clues. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think if any of the kids were referring to him as Uncle.
Uncle.
That's all. Because then that could put them together as a couple.
It could. It could. All right. Last call of the night. Make it good. We got Eli from South Carolina. Hello, Eli.
Eli's calling. Eli's calling.
Chut chut.
Chut chut.
Chut chut.
How are you doing? Go ahead and turn your computer
good. How
down
are
if
y'all?
you would. Can you turn your computer down, Eli?
Okay.
Getting a little bit of a feedback there. All right. That's better, buddy. What's on your mind?
Okay. I wanted to point out how we were on Mount Kansas, and I was noticing that when they were in the room with Crosshair, they pulled out the that droid that we saw in A New Hope.
Oh, yeah, the
that
interrogation
Leia
droid.
got- the interrogation droid.
Dr.
And I
Ball.
noticed that, and I did some research, and it looked a lot like the one that was in The New Hope.
Yes.
Then at the end, I noticed that Dr. Hemlock, he was talking about how he would do anything to find out the information about the Bad Batch and getting Omega. And he was saying, "I'll do anything like that." And that's where I think I was getting the feeling that he was going to use the interrogation droid as much as he could to find out where Omega was and get all the information from Crosshair. So I kind of connected the dots, and that I just came up with that. I think Dr. Hemlock really started the interrogation droid thing. for the Empire.
Oh, yeah, he very well could have been the architect, the designer. You know, we know that he created that green gas.
That toxic, which
toxic
he
gas.
conveniently had an immunity to.
Right.
And the name Hemlock means poison. So he's living up to his name, that's for sure.
And so he very well.
Very much.
Did I pronounce your name right, by the way? Is it Ellie or Eli?
Eli. Yeah,
Eli.
you pronounced it right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Eli, thanks for the call, buddy. I think that is a really good idea that we may have seen the inventor of the interrogation droid here with Dr. Hemlock. I like that a lot. I liked it a lot. I think that was.
I don't
that was good.
don't recall seeing them any earlier on the timeline.
No.
Yeah, Dr. Ball, as they called him on Robot Chicken.
Was that what it was?
Dr. Ball, yeah. Don't you remember old Dr. Ball?
I don't.
Boy, I'll tell you, in 1977, as a kid, watching the camera zoom into that syringe and thinking about dear sweet...
Was that scary stuff back then?
Princess Leia, it unnerved me quite a bit, my friend. The first time I was seeing that. Yeah, it seemed very hardcore for that type of movie.
Yeah.
In
Well,
that
remember, there was we talked to or heard about the young man who was the son of the actress that played Princess Leia in the radio drama, and really reacted quite strongly to her screams as she was being interrogated by that Dr. Ball.
It's an intense scene. The NPR Star Wars audio dramas. Listen, because the scene continues once the door to Leia's prison cell closes with Vader in there. You get the injection and you get the reaction, and it's a wild ride.
Oh, yikes.
I mean, she and sex. She does not phone it in. She brings it all. And the screams of agony are unlike anything we've ever heard in Star Wars. Well, next to Harrison Ford in Empire Strikes Back when he strapped to that chair. Boy, Harry put on a show that day.
Love it. All right. Well, let's check in with Tyler Page, of course, the official RFR call screener and the show observer. Tyler, great callers this tonight. Really good conversation and observations. Anything that we might have missed? Anything that you observed tonight? I know you earlier, before we went on the air, you were talking about, I asked you for a couple of topics, and you seem most interested in Crosshair and his turn, and also about Omega the Flyer, Omega the Pilot.
Yeah, and what really got me in that scene when she's doing the tech maneuver or whatever is the tech turn.
The tick turn.
Yeah, they sink in that little pod racer noise, you know, like the engine, like whoop, 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 whoop. And that just really got me going. That combined with British accents on any Empire officer, the little mouse droid noise. There was a lot going on in this episode for me with that. One other thing that I wanted to mention too, I brought this up, I think, on Pabu Freaks. Pabu is a character from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not the one Dave worked on, but a later one, and it's a little red ferret that is part of the Fire Nation, and I think that might be a nice little nod to that. But I couldn't really figure out what those Munoz, those little monkey things were on this planet.
Oh, these little guys right here, right?
Yeah. I thought maybe there's a connection, but I have no idea.
I don't know. I thought those were kind of cute.
I think they're weird.
All right, man. Well, thanks for always being here for us on the after shows. The listeners love you. The callers love you even more. So we appreciate you being here each and every week. Sometimes twice.
I love
a week.
everyone. So,
all right, buddy. Thank you very much. Jimmy Mack, 2 episodes. The Bad Batch, we've only got 2 more. We've got 1 more week of Bad Batch. Final thoughts on these most recent eps.
My thoughts are with the characters right now. Like, where are they? You know, the Bad Batch, they're on Pabu, and they're committed to staying to help the people there rebuild. Someone's got to get them off of Pabu and back into the big game, and that's going to happen. Boy, there was a lot happening in this episode that I really enjoyed, and we covered so much of it. But one thing we did talk about is how prison life is really hard on these clone prisoners that the imps are transferring around throughout the galaxy. You see when Crosshair is being let out of his cell, he's looking through the laser doors of the other cells, and they showed one clone trooper there, and he looked like he was knocking on death's door. And Hauser was explaining to Chuchi and Rex and the other guys that prison life is hard. Only 3 of the 8 clone troopers that he was with in prison survived. So the Empire's doing everything they can to kill these guys. I think Dr. Hemlock might have some sort of toxin gas that he'd like to use on them after he experiments on them, of course. And so we're going to see him explain his full plan in the Imperial Summit next week. Tarkin will be there, trilling his R's, and we'll be loving it. It's great to see Stephen Stanton, back in the Bad Batch. Tarkin's been sorely missed. I think this show would benefit from more Tarkin in the mix. I definitely would like to see more Tarkin. Puffer Pig, not in this episode.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next Wednesday, with the Mandalorian After Show. Yeah. Episode 5 of this season we'll be covering on Wednesday. And then, of course, Big Bad Batch season finale, RFR After Show on Thursday, 9:00 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait for that. Be a good time. I love seeing in the chat that people are bummed that they're going to have to go back to 1 after show a week after next week. Well, that makes us feel really good, because
what's something to think about? this double dose of storytelling we've been getting for the month of March, it all comes to an end next week. We have a triple bill finale to blow minds next week. And I have been eating this up. I've been loving every minute of it. I get the feeling that Jason and all you guys, we're all hardcore Star Wars fans, and we're really enjoying this. But just based on the way things are going now in the entertainment corporate realm, I don't know if this will ever happen again, at least not anytime in the near future. I doubt we'll ever have a situation where we're getting multiple new Star Wars episodes via animation or live action in a week. So I think we're at the end of that for now. Maybe that's why my voice is fading so much, is because there's been so much Star Wars. I have famously lost my voice due to Star Wars in the past. Just ask Mark Hamill.
Many times.
Many times. Well, not a few times, let's just say. A few times. My voice, not in this episode.
All right. Well, check us out over on Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Many of the voices that you heard calling in tonight are Patreon supporters. If you'd like to hang out and talk Star Wars with folks like that, you can do so over at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. You can follow us on all of our social media channels. We're on, obviously, YouTube, so please like and subscribe the videos, and please comment and engage with the videos. Really helps the algorithms. Also, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're on there, so it's a great way to make sure that you never miss a live show. And the website. Oh, and I said Patreon. I gave Patreon.
I know, but I just wanted to reinforce Patreon because we've only been talking about The Mandalorian and only been talking about The Bad Batch for the month of March. But over at Patreon, there's so many other Star Wars topics being discussed. RFR Q&A on RFR RPG on the Pabu Freaks. So you want to drop into there if you just want some other Star Wars conversation besides Mando and Bad Batch.
Right.
That's lame.
Right.
Yanni's. Why is that
I
there?
have too many closing themes.
That's lame. He puts a tweet up that says that's lame.
Too many
Yanni,
buttons.
explain yourself. What's lame?
Oh,
What's
my
lame?
God. Hey, Jeff says, hey, Mac, you're right. Remember, we're going to be saying years from now, remember March 2023 when we had 2 new Star Wars shows every week for a month? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be in the Dark Times Mach 2. Mark 2, I should say. That's when, the Dark Times return. Star Wars disappears from everywhere. Not a animated show, live action show, film.
Oh, no, don't say
novel.
That. Not doing that. We're not going back.
No merchandise, no nothing. Hey, this really happened. That really happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I was there. In the desert, the Star Wars desert. And it wasn't even Tatooine.
You know, it wasn't all bad because you were buying those Power of the Force action figures for a few bucks.
It's in some cases 50 cents
Oh,
on the card.
God, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
I wish I knew to invest. I was
All
only
right, guys.
collecting.
We'll see you next week. For Tyler Page, and Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.